Hey there, folks, and welcome back to another Friday Night Spotlight brought to you by Jones Ford Buick GMC, your hometown dealer for more than 50 years. Before we get into this, real quickly, we do have a couple playoffs games happening this week, so we're going to break those down after our game of the week. Our game of the week is still in the regular season. It involves one of our 4A teams, and that is Combs. They will be hosting Chandler Arizona College Prep. David, what are you expecting in this game?
Well, this is a pretty big game for Combs. They're right on the cusp of possibly getting a playoff spot right now. They're currently ranked 17th in the AIA rankings. They could bump up even more with one of those top teams being taken to the Open Championship they do with those rankings. So they're right on the cusp. They have a good chance here, but the key for them is they got to keep winning, and they have a good opportunity here to beat a team that is beatable. And if their offense is still high powered like it has been all year, they're going to have a good shot at it. And if they're able to hold on and get this win and then get another win next week, it would make their first playoff appearance since 2016. So this is a lot of things riding on this game, and this team has to be on like they have been recently. And it all starts and stops with Tanner Hale on the offensive side at quarterback. He has 22 passing touchdowns, and he also leads the team in rushing touchdowns as well. So he's a huge dual threat. He's always running around and making great plays and being that guy that Combs has needed for a while. He's in a senior season now, so he really wants to finish off his season with a high note, and I think this is the perfect time to do it. Other guys around, they got Hunter Clare at wide receiver. Hunter Clare has always been the go-to guy for Hale at wide receiver. He leads the team in receiving yards and leads the team in receiving touchdowns, so he's always going to be the number one option. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Knights counteract that and possibly double team him and even triple team him to make sure he's not having that huge impact like he usually does. So they're, like I said, they're facing a tough Knights team. This team is definitely worth noting because they are a very solid team in 4A, but they've recently lost their last two games, so they are coming in with a little bit less momentum that I would say. And Combs has been a solid team for the last couple of weeks, and if they stay strong, as well as that defense is able to hold up and let that high-powered offense kick in and kick on all cylinders, they should be set up for a good win here, and I think that they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. So I'm hoping for it. This team is really great, coming in with a first-year head coach and Levi Hoagland. They've really been able to kind of move themselves into that that upper level of a possible playoff team, and I think they could do it this year. I really like this team.
All right, looking at AZ College Prep, their offense seems very similar to Combs's. They are led by sophomore quarterback Jackson Castro, over 1,700 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Their run game is led by Byrick Stevens and Rabbi Bush. I'm a mess this up. So we're going to go with Robbie. Both of these guys have 260 plus rushing yards, 7 touchdowns combined. But looking at this, I feel like Combs does have more offensive weapons than AZ College Prep. David touched on Tanner Hale and Hunter Clare, but also they have Connor Wiles. He does a really solid job of backing up Hale with the run game. So far, 228 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. And then, just offensively, in the wide receivers, besides Hunter Clare, Tanner Hale also has the Theobald brothers in Gage and Chase, and then also Jonathan Bias. Jonathan Bias has done a really solid job in these past couple of games for the Coyotes. So far, just 7 receptions for 204 yards. So I think all of these guys, if they can have a solid game and put everything together, they can easily defeat the one of the top 5 teams in the 4A conference. David, is there anything else you want to add about this game?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the supporting cast, if you want to call them that, because the question for Combs has always been, since Tanner Hale has taken over at quarterback, has building a team around him and finding him weapons that are outside of his usual suspects in Hunter Clare and Connor Wiles, and they've definitely done that so far with this new receiving core. Not necessarily new receiving core, but just guys are stepping up. They're stepping up. They understand what's at stake here, and what they understand that they have a chance to do something really great, and they've all performed well, and it's become a really solid, well-rounded team, and I like what they're doing so far this year.
Real quickly, I do have to add, looking at AZ College Prep's defense, Caden Gibson and Elijah Casares. Gibson has 17.5 sacks and Casares has 11.5. This is going to be key. We keep on talking about Tanner Hale. He's a scrambly guy. He can get the job done with his arms, and he's really good at getting out of the pocket and moving the ball with his legs. So these two guys are going to have their hands full, and we'll have to wait and see how this game turns out. Moving on, our next two games that we're also going to break down are our 3A playoff games. Unfortunately, in 2A, neither of our two teams in Sequoia Pathway and Santa Cruz made it, so we are solely talking about 3A, and that includes our first game in number 11 Florence heading up to number 6 Eager Round Valley. David, what are you looking for in this game?
Well, what I'm looking at with Round Valley is that what stands out to me is the defense that Florence is going to face. Because Round Valley has had a very solid defense all year, and especially a lot of momentum is coming into their side recently. You know, they've only held their opponent to 2 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks, so they have been able to keep offenses down and keep them slow, and not being able to capitalize on some strong offenses. So that's going to be a huge thing for Florence to be able to figure out, is how they can keep their weapons being able to be utilized well and in this game, and guys like Josh Jackson being able to run around and make sure that they have to keep limited to him. But if Florence is able to kind of have those opportunities where they can, get some tough opponents and tough stops and be able to build some momentum on offense during this game, they're going to be able to set up fine. But it's on the road. It's always tough going up against the road. This Florence team has been a surprise all year. Like, we've said it a bunch of times, this team has been very solid very quickly, and I think they definitely have a chance here in this one, but we'll just have to see what happens in this matchup, because Florence hasn't been here in a while. They're really looking forward. They're looking forward to this playoff opponent, and I think that they can definitely make some noise if they're able to keep their minds right and keep their minds shaped, ready to go.
So Florence, this is going to be Florence's first playoff appearance since 2017, and like David mentioned, it's going to start with the defense. Looking at Round Valley, it's all about their quarterback, and Riker Marble, over 1,000 passing yards, a 50% completion rate, 16 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. These interceptions are key because Flores, we know they have those guys that can come up with those picks and make them pay. I'm looking at Adomi Barnett, Day Neal, and Isaiah Martinez. If they can put some pressure on Marble, then hey, this is going to be a very different game where Florence isn't going to have to solely rely on their offense. But then looking over at Round Valley's defense, guys like Keanu Clark and Trayson Merrill, over 80 tackles, both of them as a team. Round Valley has 28 sacks for 131 yards. So this is going to be key. This is going to be Florence's quarterback, Logan Stenson. This is his first playoff game. He is just a sophomore. So, there might be a couple jitters, not just for him, but for all these other Gophers, because this is their first playoff appearance in, their pretty much their whole high school career. So we're going to have to wait and see how this one also turns out. And then moving on to our last playoff game, and I think this is the biggest surprise out of all of them. It is number 10 Santan Foothills heading down to Tucson to take on number 7 Sabino. David, what about this matchup?
This Santan Foothills team is not the same football team we've seen in the last years. Not the same football team that only won one game last year. They have completely turned it around and put in a 7-3 performance, and it has been incredible to watch. Like I said, complete turnaround for the Santan Valley team, and I've been a believer in them all year. I love what Coach Mike Carlin is doing out there. He has a laid-back but also physical approach to coaching, where he wants his team to be physical, but also isn't going to pressure them as much or lay it on them as much, I would say. Mike Carlin has a very good laid-back approach to this team, but this team is still very physical. The defense has been great all year, and the offense is really starting to click, and they've just turned into a really solid team, and it goes to show what good coaching and stability can do for a program. This has been a program that has been looking for a stable head coach for a while now, and they think they found it in Coach Carlin. They've done a great job all year, and I really think that they have a legitimate shot to go down in Tucson and beat a Sabino team that Santan Foothills has finished their season 5 games winning streak right now. They're definitely on the rise right now. They have a lot of momentum going into this game. It is on the road, unfortunately, but they're able to go down to Sabino and make a lot of noise and kind of shock some people in 4A. I think this team definitely has a lot to prove, and I think they can definitely prove it. I'm a believer in this team, and I think that they possibly could make some more noise in this 4A playoff and make some teams scared of them. I like this team.
Slight correction here for David. We're talking about the 3A conference here. But the key, I think, for Santan Foothills here is we know they have a strong running game, and because they have a strong running game, they really eat up a lot of clock. The key here is whenever they do have the ball, they have to score. because there's no slowing down the Sabino team. This Sabino team is really good at scoring. It starts with their quarterback, Cameron Hackworth, over 2,200 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and his go-to guys are the Berry Hills and Savon and Shamar. They have over 1,500 receiving yards combined and 23 touchdowns. Like I mentioned we've kind of seen what the Sabino team can do. I'm talking about the game they played against the Coil Pathway. No defense was played in that game. It was just high scoring, and we know Santan Foothills has a decent defense, but, they really haven't seen an opponent like Sabino. Yes, they've played against Mesa Eastmark, but this is a whole different animal in Sabino. David, is there anything else you want to add about this game?
Look out for Bo Cotherman on Santan Foothills. Bo Cotherman has been that leader for them the entire year. He's a standout on defense. He plays offensive line as well. He's just a built-in leader, both vocally and just leading by example. I'm saying his praises the entire year so far, and I think he's definitely going to come into this game fired up and ready to go. This team is always being able to lead with him and kind of be that guy for him. So Bo Cotherman is definitely an X factor to watch in this matchup, and he could have a solid performance in this game.
All right, and that does it for this week's Friday Night Spotlight. Be sure to tune into Pinal Central over the weekend to see how our playoff teams do, as well as the rest of our 5A and 4A conference team, who will be wrapping up their regular season next week.